Tonight, we lift the veil on a seldom discussed chapter of history. Journey with me into the sun-drenched sands of ancient Egypt, into the concealed and fragrant chambers of the Pharaohs, to unveil the most peculiar sexual customs of these divine rulers. Envision whispered secrets under flickering oil lamps, filled with the heavy aromas of lotus and myrrh, crafting a setting where unions were both sacred and utterly strange. What you are about to discover could make even your most adventurous dating stories seem tame. Brace yourself for an exploration into the secretive depths of the Nile Kings' lives. Prepare for some raised eyebrows and perhaps a few dropped jaws. Before we embark, like and subscribe if you genuinely appreciate this journey, and share your location and local time in the comments. It's always thrilling to see where everyone's tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, and together let's step gently into the world of ancient Egyptian royalty, where the divine and the earthly desires were not just intertwined, but often indistinguishable. Step into the world of ancient Egyptian royalty, where the pharaoh was far more than a mere mortal ruler. He was revered as a living god. This divine status intertwined every facet of his life with the fate of Egypt itself. Seen as the earthly embodiment of gods like Ra and Horus, the pharaoh's personal and private existence had cosmic significance. His bedroom was not simply a space for rest or producing heirs. It represented a sacred microcosm of the universe. Every intimate act carried profound weight, influencing the fertility of an isle, the abundance of the land's harvests, and ultimately the kingdom's stability. The pharaoh's virility was inextricably linked to the prosperity of Egypt, placing immense pressure on him. His personal potency was essentially the heartbeat of the entire nation. Artistic depictions sometimes emphasize this connection, portraying pharaohs with erect penises not as indecent, but as potent symbols of life-giving power and regenerative strength. This visual language underscored their role as divine guarantors of Egypt's well-being, a reminder that their intimate vitality was a matter of national and cosmic importance. In this sacred framework, royal sexuality was less about private desire and more about fulfilling a divine duty, ensuring the endless cycle of life, the rising of the sun, and the flooding of the Nile that sustained Egyptian civilization. The pharaoh was the vital link between gods and mortals, his very essence woven into the fabric of cosmic order. Having ventured beyond the initial chambers of the pharaoh's private realm, we now confront the startling reality of divine incest and its role in preserving royal bloodlines. This was not simply a scandalous whisper behind closed doors, but a deeply entrenched sacred practice fundamental to Egyptian kingship. The pharaoh was viewed as a living god, the earthly embodiment of Horus. In maintaining the absolute purity of this divine essence was paramount. The most direct and revered method to achieve this, in their worldview, was through marriage within the immediate royal family. These unions often involved siblings, sometimes half-siblings, and, in certain debated cases, even father-daughter pairings, all designed to safeguard what they regarded as an unblemished lineage. Such customs might sound profoundly bizarre to modern sensibilities, akin to a complex family drama, but for ancient Egyptians, they were solemn duties, inescapably bound to their cosmology. The underlying rationale, though foreign to us, remained consistent within their belief system. Divine blood could not be diluted. If the pharaoh embodied a god, then the woman who bore his heir, the next god king, had to share that same untainted divinity. Who better to ensure this sacred purity than a sister or daughter, individuals with the closest genetic connection? This practice was far more than a political maneuver. It reflected the mythical unions of revered gods, such as Osiris and Isis, who themselves were brother and sister, yet conceived Horus, the quintessential archetype of Egyptian kingship. So, when envisioning a royal wedding in ancient Egypt, it's crucial to discard modern notions of societal norms. These ceremonies were meticulously orchestrated to uphold cosmic balance, secure succession, and maintain an unbroken chain of divine power. It was less about personal romantic connection, though affection certainly blossomed in many royal marriages, and more about perpetuating divine authority. Historical records confirm the widespread nature of sibling marriages among pharaohs across many dynasties. Take Ramses II, for example, one of Egypt's most renowned rulers who married his sister Nefertari, elevating her to one of the most celebrated and influential queens in history. Similarly, Akhenaten married Nefertiti. While their exact familial relation remains debated, some suggest cousinship, others full siblings. The pattern of close-kin unions is evident. These were not isolated occurrences, but a royal policy aimed at preserving the purity and legitimacy of the ruling line within an exclusive pool, where the only real options were immediate family members. Trying to explain this concept at a contemporary family gathering would be challenging. Yes, it's for the good of the nation and the wheat harvest, of course. An intriguing detail about these relationships lies in the specific titles used, such as Great Royal Wife, Hemet Neset, which typically referred to women from the immediate royal family, distinguishing them from other consorts and underscoring their unique sacred status. Adding to the complexity was the distinction, at times, between biological sisters and spiritual sisters, or those adopted into the royal family to fulfill particular responsibilities, making the tracing of these intricate genealogies a daunting task for modern Egyptologists, as if unraveling a very tangled and divine skein of royal yarn. Scholars continue to debate whether all these unions were consummated physically or if some were purely ceremonial, intended primarily to legitimize claims to the throne without intimate relations. In cases such as father-daughter unions, some theorize the marriage was largely symbolic, connected to religious rites rather than conjugal partnership. Nevertheless, the purpose was unmistakable: to solidify the pharaoh's divine authority and the cosmic order. One can't help but wonder about ancient Egyptian wedding vows, perhaps less for richer, for poorer, and more along the lines of, I, Pharaoh, take thee, my sister, to be my divine partner in ensuring the Nile floods on time and the sun rises each morning. A role of unrivaled cosmic responsibility. Would you agree? Stepping into the intricate world of the pharaoh's harem, we uncover a sphere far more complex than a mere collection of consorts. Contrary to the simplistic image of the harem as only a place filled with passive beauties, this was a vibrant microcosm of political influence, social dynamics, and intimate relationships. The harem, known as the Person or House of Netting, operated as a self-contained institution, sometimes uniquely situated outside the main royal palace, fully equipped with its own administrators, staff, workshops, and storage areas. The scale of the harem was massive, serving not only as a private retreat for the pharaoh and his women, but also as an economic powerhouse and a training ground for future queens and princesses. Administrative records from a New Kingdom period provide detailed insights into this establishment, listing provisions and enumerating residents and staff. For example, during the reign of Amenhotep III, his Malkata Palace complex included expansive quarters accommodating numerous wives, concubines, and offspring, highlighting a sophisticated organizational system rather than chaotic indulgence. Within this bustling society, titles and hierarchies underscored each woman's status and influence. The great royal wife occupied the highest rank, often wielding significant political and religious clout, while principal and secondary wives also commanded respect, especially when mothers to sons. Far from being mere ornamental figures, many of these women were accomplished in arts, music, and diplomacy. Some even steered court decisions and navigated power plays. One striking episode that illustrates the potent and sometimes dangerous dynamics within the harem is the infamous conspiracy during Ramses III's reign. A secondary wife named Tai orchestrated a plot to assassinate the pharaoh and elevate her son Pintar to the throne. This conspiracy involved not only women from the harem, but also high-ranking officials, displaying that the harem was a hotbed of ambition and political maneuvering, where alliances and rivalries could shape the fate of Egypt. Furthermore, the nature of the harem transcended simple sexual servitude. These women often held administrative roles and religious titles, demonstrating their integration into the broader societal and spiritual landscape. Many oversaw estates, led economic ventures, or performed priestly duties linked to fertility goddesses like Hathor. Their lives were multifaceted, balancing domestic responsibilities with influence and power. The harem was also home to numerous concubines and female servants, constituting a complex social fabric. While concubines might not share the formal status of royal wives, they often came from influential families or foreign royal houses, serving as strategic links in diplomatic relations. Their experiences range from fleeting companionship to long-term relationships, producing legitimate heirs. In some rose to considerable prominence. Meanwhile, servants, ranging from wet nurses and chambermaids to musicians and hairdressers, provided indispensable services intimately connected to the daily life and rituals of the royal household. This intricate web of relationships, ambitions, and roles within the harem highlights the immense social significance of this institution. It was a dynamic community, pivotal not only to the personal life of the pharaoh, but to the political stability and continuation of the dynasty. Far from simply a space of pleasure, the harem was a court within a court, vibrating with complex interactions where power, desire, and survival interlaced in a constant dance. Now, let's journey into the profound spiritual realm where sexuality and divinity seamlessly intertwine in ancient Egyptian royal life. For these godkins, intimate acts went far beyond mere personal pleasure or procreation. They were sacred rituals essential to maintaining the very fabric of cosmic balance and the prosperity of Egypt itself. Picture a belief system where the pharaoh was not only a ruler, but a living embodiment of the creator gods. Every action he took, including those behind closed doors, had tangible effects on the world around him. The fertility and virility of the pharaoh were seen as directly mirroring the fertility of the land, the lifeblood of Egypt embodied by the annual flooding of the Nile. This wasn't a poetic metaphor. It was a central tenet driving ceremonial life. The cult of Min, the god of fertility and sexual potency, vividly exemplifies this connection. Depicted with an erect phallus and wielding a flail, men symbolized generative power, and pharaohs often participated in men's rituals to reinforce both their own fertility and that of the nation. During important harvest festivals, the pharaoh took on ritualistic roles, such as cutting the first sheaf of grain, symbolically linking his own reproductive vitality to the land's abundance. This sacred reciprocity ensured that the life-giving waters of the Nile would continue to flood, nurturing crops, people, and gods alike. Adding another layer, the concept of divine birth shaped narratives surrounding pharaohs, portraying them as born not just of human parents, but via a celestial union, often between their mothers and a god like Amunias-Are, who assumed the form of the reigning king's father. These intricate theological constructs were visually immortalized in temple reliefs, underscoring their divine origins and celestial legitimacy. Scholars debate to what extent these ritual sexual acts were literal or symbolic, but the overarching belief remains clear. The pharaoh's fertility was sacred, embodying the enduring creative force of the gods. Each intimate moment was thus more than a personal event. It was part of a grand cosmic performance, ensuring the flow of life from the heavens to the fertile lands of Egypt. In this worldview, the pharaoh's sexuality was both a vital duty and a divine power, interwoven inseparably with spirituality and the eternal cycle of creation. In ancient Egypt, Magic was not confined merely to grand rituals or temple ceremonies. It also permeated the most intimate aspects of life, especially matters of love, desire, and fertility. For the pharaoh and his consorts, the pressure to conceive an heir was immense, and beyond relying on natural means, they often turned to an intriguing collection of magical charms and whispered spells to influence the unseen forces governing affection and conception. Imagine the delicate balance of emotions within the royal household. If conception was delayed, or if a pharaoh wished to secure the devotion of a particular consort, it wasn't just biology at play. They sought spiritual intervention through small, potent objects believed to wield magical power, amulets and talismans that serve as personal boosters in the pursuit of love and fertility. Amulets were ubiquitous in ancient Egyptian society, worn by individuals across social strata, each with specific purposes: to protect, to attract fortune, or to aid in fertility. Among the royal family, several such charms were especially prevalent. For example, the scarab beetle symbolized regeneration and rebirth and was commonly worn by women hoping to conceive, embodying the cycle of life and renewal. Another potent symbol was the tight, knot associated with the goddess Isis, signifying protection and life-giving force. Small figures of bees, linked to a dwarf deity associated with childbirth, fertility, and pleasure, also feature prominently, believed to serve as active conduits for enhancing the likelihood of conception and fostering affection. These were not mere ornaments. They were considered vital components in the complex spiritual landscape within which the pharaoh and his consorts operated. Love spells, inscribed on papyrus or ostrich eggshells, testified to a culture that embraced intimate magic not just for royalty, but for anyone seeking romantic advantage. Some of these spells aimed to compel a woman to pursue a man, often involving carefully orchestrated rituals, special oils, and invoking deities like Hathor, the goddess of love and joy, emphasizing the rich interplay between spirituality and human desire. While no direct records indicate a pharaoh casting love spells upon a queen, it is highly plausible that such practices were integral to the royal household, where every advantage in securing love, loyalty, and fertility could mean the difference between dynastic success and failure. Imagine a royal love triangle where magical charms took the place of whispered jealousies and strategic favors. A game of gifting amulets to secure unwavering devotion, a secret weapon in the ancient Egyptian version of courtship politics. Scholars continue to debate the actual efficacy of these magical interventions. Were they genuinely believed to alter fate, or did they serve primarily as psychological tools, offering comfort and a semblance of control over uncertain destinies? Much like modern placebos, these charms might have bolstered confidence and eased anxieties for those who wore or carried them. Regardless of their tangible power, the abundant use and cultural significance of magical charms and love spells underscore how deeply intertwined the spiritual, emotional, and physical aspects of intimacy were in ancient Egypt. This fusion reveals a worldview where magic was a companion to love, a protector of fertility, and an essential piece in the divine puzzle of sustaining both personal happiness and the continuity of a sacred royal line. Now, let's delve into the medical practices that ancient Egyptians employed to maintain sexual health within the royal court. Even for the divine pharaohs, the challenge of sustaining potency and fertility was very much a pressing concern. The ancient Egyptians, renowned for their surprisingly advanced medical knowledge, combined empirical observations with herbal mixtures and folk remedies to address these intimate issues. Imagine the immense pressure on a pharaoh to produce healthy heirs, not only to continue his lineage, but also to manifest his divine vitality and assure the stability of the kingdom. When sexual performance or fertility complications appeared, the royal physicians, who were highly respected and skilled, were summoned to intervene. Their approach reflected a sophisticated blend of practical medicine and spiritual care, as documented in medical papyri, such as the Ebers Papyrus and Kan Gynecological Papyrus. For instance, treatments for male impotence included concoctions made of honey combined with various plants and sometimes animal parts, aiming to restore vigor through what they considered scientific means. One notable recipe recommended consuming bread infused with specific herbs to boost male potency. While these ingredients might raise eyebrows today, their intent was clear: a practical attempt to remedy physiological challenges. Female fertility treatments were perhaps even more curious by modern standards. One unusual remedy involved creating a vaginal applicator made from a paste of dates, beer, and, surprisingly, goose fat. Although the discomfort this might have caused the royal consort is left to speculation, the goal was to create a nurturing environment favorable to conception. Other prescriptions involved fumigating women with incense and herbs to stimulate fertility, resembling an ancient spa rite. Unique, if not exactly relaxing. The effectiveness of these remedies remains a topic of scholarly debate. Were these herbal and concocted treatments pharmacologically potent, or did they act primarily as psychological aids, offering reassurance and confidence in an uncertain process? Many experts agree it was likely a combination, as physicians keenly observed outcomes and adjusted their practices accordingly. Their holistic view addressed not only the physical body, but also the unseen forces believed to influence health. So, while the idea of a goose fat fertility paste may not inspire modern enthusiasm, it serves as a vivid reminder of the lengths royal medicine went to ensure a pharaoh's sacred duty to bring new life into the world was fulfilled. This synthesis of medical knowledge and spiritual concern underscores the complexity and ingenuity of ancient Egyptian healthcare, especially regarding the intimate health of their divine rulers. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh's body was far more than mere flesh and blood. It was revered as a sacred vessel, a living link between the earthly realm and the cosmic order. Each aspect of his physical being, especially his health and sexual potency, was intimately connected to the stability and prosperity of the entire universe. This was no ordinary ruler. The pharaoh was regarded as the embodiment of Horus, the son of Osiris, and his very vitality was believed to directly influence the fertility of the Nile, the success of the harvests, and the peace across the land. If the pharaoh remained strong and vigorous, Egypt thrived. If his strength waned, it was seen as a dire omen foreshadowing turmoil. This belief placed enormous spiritual and practical pressure on him to maintain an image of flawless vitality, as if he were the CEO of the cosmos whose personal fitness affected the well-being of the entire kingdom. This fundamental principle of Egyptian kingship held that the pharaoh was a living god, with his physical vigor reflecting his divine energy. Artistic representations consistently idealized pharaohs as eternally youthful and robust, even in old age, reinforcing the idea that the king maintained perfect health to perform his sacred duties, especially continuing the royal lineage and ensuring the land's fertility. Even in death, the care bestowed upon the pharaoh's body reflected its sacred nature. Mummification was meticulously performed to preserve the king's physical integrity, and some scholars propose that the reproductive organs were deliberately preserved as a subtle affirmation of the pharaoh's enduring generative power in the afterlife, ready to sustain creation beyond the mortal realm. While the depths of belief regarding how the pharaoh's body transmitted divine energy remain a topic of scholarly debate, whether purely symbolic or expressed in specific rituals, the consensus affirms that his body was seen as a powerful instrument of cosmic harmony. It was a living prayer for Egypt's prosperity, an eternal testament to divine order, and a constant embodiment of unending life. Shifting focus from the sacred body of the pharaoh We now explore the physical spaces crafted for royal intimacy within ancient Egypt's grand architectural landscape. While the imposing public halls and towering temples dominate popular imagination, hidden away within sprawling palace complexes were private chambers and secluded gardens designed expressly for the pharaoh's personal respite and intimate encounters. Picture these royal residences not merely as homes, but as miniature cities bustling with administrative offices, workshops, and vast living quarters that house thousands. Nestled within them were carefully planned private wings dedicated solely to the pharaoh and his immediate family. These exclusive areas featured bedrooms, bathing facilities, dressing rooms, and intimate courtyards or gardens, providing sanctuary from the relentless demands of kingship and court scrutiny. In these sanctuaries, the pharaoh could unwind, and his most private relationships could flourish away from public eyes. Archaeological excavations of royal sites such as Malakata, Amenhotep III's palace complex, and Amarna, the city built by Akhenaten, have revealed these elaborate residential quarters. Their careful design underscores how much importance was placed on providing comfort, discretion, and beauty, all essential for sustaining the delicate balance of royal life and ensuring the continuation of the divine lineage. Imagine, too, the presence of pleasure gardens within these palatial domains. Far from mere utilitarian vegetable plots, these were lavishly landscaped retreats adorned with pools, pergolas, exotic flora, and winding paths. These serene spaces offered the pharaoh and his consorts a setting for leisurely strolls, quiet conversation, and moments of tender intimacy. Envision the king wandering hand in hand with his queen beneath moonlit skies, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine, an oasis of tranquility amidst the tumultuous intricacies of court life. While explicit evidence regarding specific erotic furnishings remains scarce, the luxurious decor found within these private apartments, vibrant wall paintings, sumptuous bedding, and fragrant incense, would have created an inviting atmosphere conducive to passion and procreation. These carefully curated environments underscore that royal palaces were not just palatial symbols of authority and power, but also intimate stages designed to support the pharaoh's sacred duty of forging progeny. Ultimately, the architecture of these private spaces reveals a civilization attuned to the profound significance of intimacy, privacy, and desire within a divine kingship framework. Behind the grandeur and formality of the palace, the pharaoh's personal life unfolded in settings designed to nurture both love and legacy. In the world of ancient Egyptian royalty, the divine pharaoh was far from immune to the perils of scandal and rivalry that could erupt behind the palace's glittering facade. The intertwining of love, lust, and ambition often stirred explosive tensions, with personal rivalries in the royal household rippling out to influence succession and even the stability of the entire kingdom. Picture a bustling royal court brimming with wives, secondary wives, concubines, and their offspring, all subtly scheming for favor and status. Within this charged environment, every smile, glance, and whispered word could tip the balance toward ascension or downfall. In a polygamous system where many women bore the pharaoh's children, the competition to ensure one's own son would inherit the throne was fierce and relentless. These were no mere rumors passed in court or whispers. Documented conspiracies attest to the deadly seriousness of such intrigue. A striking example is the infamous harem conspiracy during the reign of Ramses III. Here, a secondary wife named Tai orchestrated a plot to assassinate the pharaoh and install her son, Penuel, as king. The conspiracy unfolded like a royal thriller, weaving together high-ranking officials and members of the harem who employed both political maneuvering and magical manipulation in their schemes. Though the plot was ultimately uncovered and foiled, the detailed trial records preserved in the Turin judicial papyrus provide a chilling glimpse into the deadly stakes of court intrigue. These are not just tales of power struggles, but of life and death, where personal ambitions collided with the divine order the pharaoh was meant to uphold. One particularly grim detail from this conspiracy concerns the fate of Penaware, who was reportedly given the option of an honorable suicide, an execution method reserved for royals. This stark choice underscores the severe consequences of engaging in palace machinations, reflecting the gravity of threats born from intimate rivalry. Beyond Ramses III's era, fragments hint at recurring patterns of intrigue throughout Egypt's history. Such episodes remind us that despite their divine status, pharaohs lived in a world saturated with human passions. Jealousy, ambition, and a ruthless quest for power often played out within their most private spheres. Thus, while a pharaoh's private chambers were intended as spaces for procreation and pleasure, they could also become treacherous arenas where love, politics, and deadly plots entwined, with the very future of Egypt hanging in the balance. The ancient Egyptian view of the afterlife was far from a simple reward for earthly deeds. It was a rigorous process of judgment where every aspect of one's life was scrutinized, including sexual conduct. The pivotal moment in this journey was the weighing of the heart ceremony, a divine trial where the deceased heart was placed on scales against the feather of Maat, the goddess representing truth and cosmic order. This judgment did not merely assess abstract moral concepts. It was deeply tied to maintaining balance within the universe itself. In this critical scene, the god Anubis presided over the weighing, while Thoth recorded the outcome, and Ammit, the devourer, awaited to consume the hearts of those deemed unworthy. Among the many declarations of innocence recited by the deceased, known as the negative confessions, several directly referenced sexual behavior. Phrases such as "I have not defiled the wife of a man," or "I have not had sexual relations with a boy," reveal that certain sexual actions were considered transgressions threatening social and cosmic harmony. Unlike the rigid sexual laws seen in later religious traditions, the ancient Egyptian moral code was pragmatic. It focused on preserving social order and family integrity, rather than condemning all non-procreative acts. Sexual misdeeds that disrupted family stability or violated property rights, such as adultery, were viewed as serious offenses because they disturbed the delicate balance Maya was meant to uphold. However, there was no universal condemnation of all sexual behavior outside traditional norms. The aim was to prevent chaos both within society and the cosmos. Scholars continue to debate the weight these sexual transgressions held compared to other sins such as theft or murder. What is clear is that the judgment process was holistic, evaluating the totality of the deceased life against the principles of Maat. Sexual ethics formed an integral part of this framework, underscoring how intimately personal behaviors intertwined with universal order in Egyptian thought. Even in the most private realms of conduct, ancient Egyptians understood that their actions reverberated beyond their mortal existence, influencing their eternal fate. This profound intertwining of personal morality and cosmic justice reminds us that the ancient Egyptians saw sexuality not just as a human act, but as a component of the universe's harmony. The weighing of the heart thus served as a divine reckoning, where the sacredness of one's intimate life was as crucial as their public virtues, a vivid testament to how desire and duty were inseparably bound in the journey toward the afterlife. Modern interpretations of ancient Egyptian sexuality are often colored by contemporary cultural biases, leading to both intriguing insights and frequent misunderstandings. Our grasp of their intimate lives emerges from a blend of archaeological discoveries, ancient writings, and the shades of our own moral outlook. Picture attempting to comprehend the private existence of people who lived millennia ago, separated from us by vast gaps in culture, society, and technology. It's akin to piecing together a fragmented dream. What we focus on or deem significant heavily influences our narratives, sometimes causing an overemphasis on the exotic or scandalous at the cost of a nuanced picture. Contemporary scholarship emphasizes the importance of avoiding present-day moral judgments or categories when analyzing ancient Egyptian behaviors. Take, for example, royal incest. While it may shock modern sensibilities, the Egyptians viewed it as a sacred practice vital for preserving divine purity rather than a forbidden taboo. Similarly, concepts such as homosexuality require careful and contextual consideration, given the absence of equivalent social frameworks or terminology in their culture. Thus, understanding these practices demands a perspective grounded in their own world rather than ours. A widespread misconception portrays ancient Egypt as a sexually permissive society by modern standards, due in part to frank fertility imagery and love poetry. However, this does not equate to unrestricted or socially unregulated behavior. Procreation, lineage, and social order remain paramount. Likewise, the portrayal of figures like Cleopatra as merely hypersexualized seductresses often overshadows their formidable political intellect and agency, a simplification fueled by popular media rather than historical reality. Balancing fascination with accuracy remains a key challenge for scholars exploring ancient Egyptian sexuality. It requires presenting these captivating facets while resisting oversimplifications or sensationalism. Recognizing that what once appeared strange or shocking was often deeply meaningful and logical within their worldview allows for a richer appreciation of this ancient civilization. Our contemporary interpretations thus reflect a dialogue between their past and our present, continually evolving as we seek deeper understanding. In conclusion, the sexual customs of ancient Egyptian pharaohs unveil a profound fusion of divinity, desire, and duty. This civilization perceived intimacy not merely as a personal or pleasurable act, but as a sacred and essential component of cosmic equilibrium. Through practices ranging from divine incest to ritual fertility rites, from the intricate political dynamics within the royal harem to the expressive artistry of love and passion, the pharaoh's intimate life was inseparably linked to the very survival and prosperity of Egypt. Their beliefs depicted the pharaoh as a living god whose virility ensured the flooding of the Nile and the flourishing of their civilization. Understanding the practices within their cultural and religious frameworks provides invaluable insight into a world where personal relationships were deeply entwined with spiritual responsibilities, reflecting a unique worldview that celebrated the creative forces underpinning existence itself. If you found this deep dive into the private and divine lives of ancient Egyptian pharaohs fascinating, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and maybe pass it along to friends who would appreciate this captivating journey through history's most enigmatic rulers.